What is up, ladies and gents? You know what time of day it is. It's Zebec time. Of course, don't actually have time for the intro. It's quite a critical video here on Zebec, so we're going to just dive straight into the charts because we are on the 1 day. We're going to talk about Zebec for the shorter term, and the reason why I jumped straight into this is because at the moment Zebec is in a pretty critical area. So right now, we've had a downtrend here on Zebec over the past few days. We can see that this has been kind of the price action that we've seen basically over the past week. Right now it is a Saturday, so generally things are quieter on the weekend. We can see that because today we have barely moved in terms of price compared to the past few days. And if you have a look in the markets in the top right, really not much movement at all, maybe 1% to the upside, 1% to the downside for some cryptos, but it is a quiet weekend. Now here on Zebec, we've been monitoring quite a few things in terms of this trend. And of course, the major trend lines that we've been watching here on Zebec has been this resistance. So we've had a general resistance that looks a bit like this that's been keeping Zebec in this downtrend since late July. Of course, the downtrend being this thing here. But of course, we've also had a major bullish support that in the longer timeframes has been keeping Zebec in a bullish direction. So we've had something that looks a little bit like this. It's not a perfect bullish support, but we can generally see that this trend since May has been heading up. So basically we have a short-term downtrend that's happened since the start of August that looks a bit like this, but in the longer time frames we've been heading upwards in general. Now, as you guys can see, we are in a critical area because we are right by this bullish support line. We haven't yet broken down below it, but the prices are hovering dangerously close to this bullish support. And like I said, this weekend is quite quiet, so I don't expect there to be a breakdown on the weekend, but Monday, in my opinion, is going to be a decisive day. And if we see red in the markets, that could mean that we see the prices head down below this bullish support, and of course that could spell the end to this bullish trend that we've seen here in May. Now, on top of that as well, if we have a look at our trusty indicators, we're getting similar signals from them. So on the 1 day MACD, you can see that we have had green bars, but they are declining in length to a point where if we see more red days over the next few days, we could get a crossover here on the 1 day MACD, meaning that the lines do something like this. And of course, that is a sell signal here on Zebec. So that would be very, very bearish if we do see a crossover. Just for reference, the last time we saw a clear crossover was here on the 10th of August. That gave us a signal pretty much here, and this is when that short-term downtrend started. So, you know, these 1 day MACDs are strong buy and sell signals in my opinion, and right now we are about to get a sell signal here on Zebec unless we see some miracle where the prices start to head up instead. Now, of course, one more thing that I wanted to show you as well in terms of indicators is this fixed range volume profile indicator. So you guys can see here that this basically tells us where Zebec has been traded at different price levels. The longer the bar here, the more trading volume has happened at certain price levels, and this red line here is basically called the point of control. So above this red line we are generally bullish, below this red line we are generally bearish, and right now, as you can see, that red line actually basically intersects Zebec at where the prices are right now. So again, if we see a substantial drop from here, meaning a breakdown from this bullish support, that would firmly put us in bearish territory according to this fixed range volume profile. And if we just do that from the very top there, we can see that we get exactly the same results. So this area at about 0.004 is definitely a battleground here for Zebec. So of course, we've got a few things that are potentially pointing us bearish here on Zebec. Do not get confused though, guys. I am still bullish for Zebec in the longer term. I do think that Zebec has a bright future for this bull run, but in the shorter term, over the coming days and weeks, we do have to deal with the fact that we could potentially be seeing a breakdown from this bullish structure. So of course, in the shorter term, some of the targets that I'm looking for in terms of where we could bottom before we start to see bullish momentum enter back into Zebec are ones that fall along these fib levels. Now, I use these because Zebec has used them as places of support and resistance over the past few weeks. You can see that, for example, this 0.618 fib here has been a decent support for the price on Zebec. 0.5, same story. We've had the prices come to test them. So if we see prices head down here on Zebec, I do think that a decent place to be buying back into Zebec for this bull run is this 0.618 fib, which is at about 0.003. So for example, we could see something like this where prices just gradually head down over the coming days and weeks. We start to see some sort of bottom formation around this fib level, and then we could start to see a reversal going into the end of 2025. Of course, if prices do head down a little bit lower, let's say we get more of a black swan event like the tariffs that we saw back in April, then we could be heading down to this 0.5 fib here. Now, of course, this 0.5 fib was also the resistance basically for the Zebec price while we were still accumulating down here on the charts. So 0.5 fib, I do think is going to be a very strong support, and that tells us that we could see prices here on Zebec go down to 0.0022. So basically, in essence, places that I would love to buy back into Zebec if the prices do head back down would be at 0.003. If prices continue to head down, then I would be buying more at 0.0022. Now, of course, those are my shorter term predictions. Of course, if we instead see Zebec go up in the shorter term, so let's just get rid of those annotations and just discuss a scenario where instead of heading down, we break out to the upside. Of course, everyone is hoping for that instead of the breakdown. Let's say we see something like this, where into Monday, we see the prices head back up to this resistance, and instead we see a breakout to the upside. Well, of course, that would be absolutely fantastic, because then we see a breakout to the upside of this triangle pattern that we are seeing. I do think that the initial target for any such breakout here on Zebec would be a 72% upside from wherever we see that breakout. That would take Zebec basically up to previous all-time highs at 0.0074. Now, of course, we need to see a breakout above this resistance at 0.0043, and of course, we don't have long left. You can see that the end of the triangle is basically in 5 days time on September the 25th, and that is the time when Zebec needs to make a decision. Are we going to break out to the upside, or are we going to break down from this triangle? So that's what's happening here for the shorter term in Zebec. Of course, if you guys want to get $10 completely free to buy the dips here on Zebec, then don't forget to check out the MEX exchange. As you can see on the screen, they're giving every new user who signs up using the link in the description down below $10 to get started. Now, this exchange does not require KYC. The only thing you need to do to get that money is to deposit some fiat currency or crypto into your MEX account, and then they'll give you that $10 straight away. So you can use that to simply buy some Zebec, or you can use it to long or short Zebec with up to 20 times leverage. Again, link for this is in the description down below. Thank you guys, as always, for all of your support on this channel. Let's get back into this video. So this is what we are seeing here for the shorter term. Now we're going to talk about the 2025 targets that I have here for Zebec. And like I say, in the longer term, so we're talking now months down the line, probably towards the end of 2025, I am still super bullish here for Zebec. Now, of course, Zebec has proven that it can defy expectations. Of course, we saw this 10x pump in the middle of May there, when most of crypto was still just recovering from the Trump tariffs. So, of course, Zebec, in my opinion, does have the capability to surprise the world. And I do think that in the longer time frames, we are still very much bullish here on Zebec. Now, of course, in terms of where I think the price targets for Zebec are going to be in 2025 are based on the fib levels that we saw during this accumulation period. So in fact, I'm just going to go onto a different chart. Where is that different chart that I'm going to use? Yeah, this is better. So basically, the fib levels from this accumulation that we had in 2024 and 2025 provide some really strong supports and resistances here for Zebec. So you can see, for example, that when we saw this massive pump, we came up to this 1.414 fib and we tested that as a mega resistance. Prices came down to 0.786 and we saw that as a massive support. So these fib levels, in my opinion, very strong fib levels, and we can use them to predict where Zebec might find some resistance when it makes new all-time highs in 2025. So of course, when that does happen, the next natural resistance here for Zebec is this 1.618 fib. That's the golden fib ratio. That tells us we could see about 0.009 here for Zebec in 2025. Now, beyond that, we have this 2 fib that tells us we could see about 0.017. And my main price target here for Zebec in 2025 tells us that we could be going up to 0.046. Now, this is the extended fib level. And this is where I think Zebec could get to this bull run, particularly if we get the right conditions here in crypto. Now, of course, there's plenty of reasons to still be bullish for Zebec this bull run. First and foremost, if I show you this total free market cap chart, you can see that right now we are very close to breaking out of this ascending triangle. Now, the implication of any such breakout on this chart is that basically the average crypto is going to do about a 3 or a 4x this bull cycle. Now, of course, the reason for that is it because if we see that breakout, we get a price target, or a market cap target, should I say, of about $4 trillion. So the market cap of the crypto total market cap outside of Bitcoin and Ethereum is sitting at about 1 trillion right now. So basically, market cap target sits at 4 trillion, which is about a 4x from where it currently stands. So this is saying that if we see that breakout, we would expect cryptos to do a 3 or a 4x on average this bull run. Now, of course, for Zebec, we are a smaller cap crypto, and I do think we are in a very strong category here in crypto. So my expectation is that Zebec is able to outperform the average here for crypto. And so if Zebec just performs average, let's say, we do get a base case here for Zebec of between 0.011 and 0.016. So basically where this 2 fib level is. So in my opinion, if you want to be conservative here on Zebec, all you need to do is measure a 3 or a 4x from where the prices are. As soon as we break out to the upside of this triangle, we haven't yet broken out, but you know, whenever we see that breakout to the upside, just measure Zebec 3x or 4x up from when we see that breakout from the total market cap. And then that, in my opinion, is a base case for Zebec this bull run. So right now, as it currently stands, that's about 0.011 to 0.016. So those would be my price targets if I'm being conservative. If I want to be more ambitious, then 0.046 is the one. Now, of course, very finally as well, just a few things that we really want to monitor in order for the best possible chance of those bull market targets being hit. We want to see these two indicators as close to 100 as possible. So astonishingly, we are in an altcoin season. This value here is at 77. So we've got one of the checkboxes sorted out, but the other one is still really lagging behind. We're on 48 at the fear and greed index, which tells us that we're neutral. We're slightly leaning towards fear than we are towards greed. So obviously we want to see this value at least 80 before we have the best possible chance here on Zebec of reaching those ambitious price targets. So essentially we just need to be patient for this fear and greed index to creep up to above 80. That's the kind of environment where you get euphoria and extreme greed, and that's when we see small caps in crypto just in general do better than everything else. So of course that's kind of an easy way to just monitor the crypto. So of course, it's just an easy way to monitor the crypto market at a glance. Essentially, just look at these two indicators. If both of them, so that's the keyword, if both of them are close to 100, that could tell you that we're near a market top here in crypto. And if you are holding crypto, that would be a decent time to start considering selling. So those are my thoughts here in a nutshell for Zebec. Of course, if you are expecting good news, I do apologize. This is just what I'm seeing from the charts in the shorter term. But needless to say, in the longer term, I am still bullish here for Zebec. In the shorter term, like I say, we could be seeing prices drop down to 0.003, all the way maybe down to 0.0022, depending on how bearish things get. But for the rest of 2025, so a couple of months down the line, we could definitely see a massive recovery here on Zebec, heading to those price targets that I mentioned earlier. So of course, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Once again, have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you in the next video.